Brand new year, the same Who Day. We'll show you what we got. Special guests, past, present players. Tune in, see who we brought. Hear the fun, it never ends. It's Talking Football with Bengal Jim and Friends. Back for more this year again. Never before heard Bengal stories, a weekly Who Day event. Talking football with Bengal Jim and Friends. It all goes back to charity, every single cent. Talking football with Bengal Jim and Friends.
Welcome to the banks of Ohio River. My buddy James and Tom, and Jamie can't make it, still stuck in Canada, but season 6, April 2020, guys. We started the first season, had to stay at home for the draft. We're now in 6th season. I can't believe people are still watching us, though. It's fun.
Well, it's thanks to the wonderful guest. We'll see a lot of those tonight. And we wanted to kick off season 6 with something special, as you said, Jimmy, here on the banks of Ohio. It's a gorgeous night downtown Cincinnati, and looking forward to not only this season, but season 6 here with Bengal Jim and Friends and the guests. Tom?
We've got a full roster of guests tonight, prime time guests too. I guess that's why we're on an hour and a half. But shall we go ahead and introduce our first one, Jim?
Actually, let's kick off a couple quick things. Real quick, so if you follow us on our social media platforms, last year we did the first ever Bengal Jim and Friends Tailgate Bourbon. We raised $10,000 for the Alzheimer's Association. We're really hoping this year we got a season 2 of the bourbon. Winslow Distillery over here, right down the street here in Covington, Kentucky, did our second season of the bourbon. Make sure you get online and buy a bottle. $20. Every bottle is going to go be split between the Alzheimer's Association and the Free Store Food Bank. So we're pretty excited about that this year as well. We were part of that blend as well.
The nice part about it, you can go online, order it. If you need somebody local to pick it up, they can certainly do that. And then in addition, definitely pre-order. So you're guaranteed a bottle. But those that attend Jungle Jam and 3 short weeks, we'll talk about that a little bit later. I believe we'll have some on there, working through some logistics there. But just a great fundraiser to kick off the year. One bourbon, which a lot of people like. If you don't like it, give it as a holiday gift. But put it up on the shelf, and then we're all going to crack it when we win the Super Bowl this year.
That's right. So we got 3 special guests tonight, maybe a 4th one, depending if they're able to show up here tonight. But let's get this kicked off. Season 6, Tom, get us kicked off here and introduce our first guest of the night.
There is no more important figure in Bengals history than number 14. He belongs in Canton, but fortunately from 1971 to 1986, he was ours. NFL Most Valuable Player, 4-time passing champion, came within a foot, although it was earlier in the game, a foot of leading us to a Super Bowl championship in Super Bowl 16. But as great a player as he was, he's meant even more to the community than just a class person. So we welcome back number 14, Ken Anderson.
Kenny. Welcome, Kenny. Welcome. He's had his limit of beers, guys. He's only had 3. He's done at 3. Kenny, he's got to drive home. But Kenny, welcome, buddy. Appreciate you.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate this.
Good to see you.
Normally, when I've done it, it's been on Zoom.
That's right.
We're getting fancy, and I think before we go any further, we'd be remiss. We want to thank Malik Wright and his team at TWSN. We got Marissa producing live in the studio tonight, so we want to thank her for I don't think we've ever had a multi-camera shoot at Bengal Jim and Friends. Like Kenny said, it's usually Zoom, and it's me hitting a button, and that's what you get. Now we got a real-time professional producer, and that's what you get when you come in studio, Kenny. We get the big-time producers.
So all the filters on these cameras make us look really good. There's a lot of filters on these, Kenny, so you look better than you normally do right now, live right now on YouTube.
I'm just trying to figure out what your shirt looks like on camera.
She's gonna edit this out.
Oh, okay.
Before we get started, Kenny, let's talk about, you had a wonderful charity event a couple weeks ago. Lots of money raised, just a great night. Tell us about that for those that couldn't make it. So hopefully they'll be there next year.
Well, it was our second year doing it, Ken and Friends. And this year the theme was kind of Bengals turned broadcasters. So we had Dave Lapham there, Bob Trumpy, who started it all, and Salma Wilcots. Boomer Esiason was on the plane waiting to come, and they said there may be a mechanical. And it turned out their plane was hit by lightning, so he never made it in for the second year in a row. So I told him he's off the invitation list. So
No more.
it's all usually right around the beginning of June. So keep an eye out for that because it is a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Thank our friends from Mercedes.
Oh.
Two vans for the charity.
Talk about that, Katie. That was just an amazing
Well,
thing.
they really don't like me to mention too much about it. But what I want to say is that just, we wanted to raise $60,000 for a new van. And we told the crowd what that would enable us to do, the amount of appearances, and outings that we could get with that. And it was astronomical. So our participants that were there came through, and we managed to get that accomplished. But, we had some great live auction items.
It was awesome.
I mean, an original seat back from Riverfront Stadium signed by all the MVPs that played in there. So it was Boomer, Bench, Rose, Morgan, Foster, and Larkin. We had who are the two biggest sports figures in Cincinnati right now?
Let's go with Reds. That would be Ellie De La Cruz.
Cruz.
And the Bengals would be Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase,
Number
but it's got to be Joe Burrow, right?
Joe Burrow. We had an autographed jersey from each one of those that was in there. We had opening day orchestra seats for all the Broadway series at the Aronoff Center, which that was going to be a great lineup this year. So we had a fun time, and listen to these guys tell stories was an amazing night for me.
It was we enjoyed. That's the second year in a row we've been there, and we enjoyed every minute of it, Kenny. So fun time helping out a great cause. We appreciate you being so involved in the community many years after your playing and coaching career here. But let's talk about this a little. Tom, I know we talked. We've talked to you many times. We talked about your playing days, but let's talk about some of the coaching years that you've had. Tom, I know you had some things you wanted to throw out to Kenny here.
Well, and with that, we continue to watch Joe Burrow evolve, and not that he hasn't been damn good since he came here to the Bengals, but what do you look for him going forward? I mean, really, how can the guy improve all that much? He's pretty hard on himself, but what would you be telling him at this point? Defenses are going to change on him. What does he need to look out for?
Well, I think that he's done a nice job in the offseason of looking at every snap and going, what do I need to work on, whether it's footwork-wise, certain throws that you have to make. And I know when I was coaching, I always put together a throw of the day tape for training camp. And we would take one throw that wasn't in the normal, progression of doing things with your drop. So, for example, the Montana Dwight Clark throw, that is a throw of the day that you work on. You take one day, you show them the film, this is what we're going to try to accomplish. Show them us doing it the year before and see if we can't get a little bit better at it. But, football is so important to him. His preparation is second to none, and I think that's why he's a great player.
So they talk about, maybe he doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, or maybe doesn't, but his football IQ, Kenny, seems to be off the charts, man. So just talk about how important football IQ is.
Well, I mean, I think, you try to see things, anticipate what's going to happen, once you get the ball in your hands, you've got about 2 seconds to make a decision and get rid of the ball out of your hands. It's probably the toughest position of any sport that you have to play and what you've got to do in a quick amount of time. And that's why you spend so much time studying film. And Joe does a great job of that. He spends a lot of times with his receivers. What adjustments they're going to make against certain coverages, those kind of things. So, like I say, I think he's got the physical ability. We all know that, but I think it's his mental capacity and his work ethic. A lot of people know what it takes to win. Very few people want to pay the price to do what it takes to win, and he's one to pay that price.
James?
We were talking a little bit earlier, Kenny, and as illustrious as your career was, a lot of people might not remember the time as a quarterback's coach and being in the room with them. With it being the offseason now, and I think there's rules in the NFL when you can talk and communicate with players, what would you tell those quarterbacks in the offseason? Is it a time to rest up? Is it a time to look at some playbooks? What was your recommendation to the quarterbacks in their downtime?
Well, I think, a little bit, this was a big offseason for Joe Burrow because he hasn't been hurt. I mean, he's kind of, ready to go, had no serious injuries, during the season, that we acquired what we have, so he could really, work on it. The last offseason was the same thing where he wanted to put on a little bulk on his body, was very successful with that. He's got his private trainer that he works with. But I think, right now you're just kind of focusing in, make sure that you're rested for training camp. You work hard in the off season to get in good shape. Now you're trying to maintain that before training camp starts in July.
Tom?
But yeah, looking forward to the offense as a whole next year. Are you nervous about the offensive line? Do you think the components are there? I mean, you went through that. You were at the top of your game and good guys, but maybe some guys that their play was falling off. They were at the end of your career, and you paid the price for that. Subsequently, the team paid the price for that in the late 70s. Do you think he's got the line now to carry him back to the Super Bowl?
Well, we'll see. And I think what will make it a little bit easier on the offensive line is if they can run the football a little bit more and run it effectively. That takes a lot of the pass rush off, and the play action then opens up big play opportunities, down the field. So I hope they can commit the run a little bit more. But I'm excited about the new offensive line coach and kind of the techniques he's going to be teaching the guys, and see if that does pay off.
Kenny, I think you might be one of the only, or not one of the very few players that played for 4 coaches for the Cincinnati Bengals, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Well, let's see. We got Paul Brown, Bill Johnson, Homer Rice, Forrest Gregg, and Sam West.
I missed one there. One there. So pick any one of those guys. Let's talk about who. I mean, I know you respected them all, but who's kind of one of your favorite guys that you used to love to play for?
Well, I mean, I think you got to go back to the original Paul Brown. He was a legend coming in, and the way that the National Football League operates their practices on a day-to-day basis is because of him and the system that he brought in. Bill Walsh was my first quarterback coordinator, and learning the West Coast system from him, learning the fundamentals of playing quarterback that kind of lasted me for years. And then I would say that the second biggest factor was Lindy Infante when he came in with Forrest Gregg. And, I had suffered through some bad years, 78, 79 were not good years. And Lindy came in and we looked at film, and I had gotten into a lot of bad habits. And we kind of went back and looked at some of the good films and got into good habits again. And certainly I had the best career of my life a year later.
Interesting. James?
Looking at the season overall, certainly one of the knocks on Zach, as great as he's been, has been the slow starts. But if you look at preseason games back when you played, correct me if I'm wrong, it was 5, 6?
6.
And then now it's, 3. Everybody thinks it's too much. Back when you played, how many preseason games were you actually playing, and how important was that to be in the preseason games, not just what happened in practice?
I played in a half of at least 5 of them. Now, there may be one game as I got a little bit older, I may not play in the first game, but otherwise I was playing, at least a half a game in there. It was different back in those days because we had no off-season program. Because after the season ended, we all got jobs to make it financially till the next season. So our off-season program was training camp. And my rookie year, I reported to Wilmington, Ohio, July 7th, that we broke September 15th. That we only played 14 games, and the league's season opened the last Sunday in September. So that's where we got it. But, with Paul Brown, every day was a 2-a-day, and every practice was in pads. So I'm not sure the guys today would buy into that too much.
It's too funny. Let's talk about Zach Taylor. I've heard you tell this story. I'm not sure if everybody's heard this story, but you talked about Zach Taylor in 2019 when he went over to London to play. They weren't having a great year, obviously. Lack of talent, obviously, that year. But talk about some of the things you saw in Coach Taylor and why you really respect Coach Taylor.
Well, they weren't winning when he came in. He kept talking about culture in the locker room, those kind of things, and everybody's kind of getting on him. Hey, you talk about culture. I win a couple of games, and so my wife Kristen and I we went over to that game. They played in London, and we were there at the beginning of the week. The team had their practice here at the stadium on Thursday. Went after practice, got on a plane, flew all night, got to London, dropped their bags off at the hotel, got dressed for practice, and went to this small stadium in London to have a Friday practice. And it's kind of that 50-degree drizzly day, and just go, God, I really want to be out here. I'm tired. And And I've been on teams where you just go through the motions of practice. And I'm sitting there, and it was one of the most well-executed, spirited practices I've seen. And that's when kind of clicked on for me that Zach has the attention of the players. And once we get a little bit better, talent in the locker room, he's going to be successful. And, James, you talked about the slow starts, which I think they realize is an issue. But you look at his slow starts, which is maybe the worst in the league of what they do, but you look at his record in September or December and January is about the best in the league. So there's that fine line there, but I think the players know that they need to play a little bit more in the preseason.
Two things you were mentioning, you played a half in every game. I really wish in 1978 you had not been playing against Green Bay.
Well, that was in the third quarter. We were playing the Packers in Milwaukee.
Right.
And it was the last preseason game, and we had them pretty good at halftime. And I know Paul Brown says, God, I hope Kenny doesn't play the second half. And I went out and I started the third quarter. And sure enough, I throw and I caught it on the helmet, and I broke a bone in my hand, and I missed the first part of the season. So I had missed, my hand was in a cast still after 4 weeks. And we hadn't won a game. We're going out to San Francisco, and they're talking about firing Bill Johnson. And I love Tiger. And I went into the training room and told Marv Collins, our trainer, said, cut the cast off, I'm playing. And I didn't have the strength in it. I didn't play well, and we got beat, and Tiger still got fired.
Like that. And one more story, and this comes from Boomer. You can adjust it if true or not. In 97, he had become starting quarterback again, stepping in for Jeff Blake. And he played a game, or he had, I think, played a game during the game. He came in for Jeff Blake and was going to start that Thursday night against the Titans, a team out of the Titans. And he said that his eyes were big, that you overloaded him with the playbook, and finally looked at you and said, Kenny, don't give me too much. And you just went, oh, you can handle it. No big deal. Well, that was the game Corey Dillon ran for the rookie rushing record.
Correct. And the game he went in was up in Indianapolis,
right,
and against the Colts. And he went in and was lights out. And I think if you look, I think he played 5 games. We were 4-1, and we scored over 40 points in each one of those games.
As good as he looked his whole career.
Yeah, and that was as much fun as I had. It's kind of our wavelengths were matching up a little bit, and we scored a lot of points. And the only time I caught grief was in Philadelphia, that we had to play down to the 1 yard line at the 2-minute warning, and we scored on the next play, and then Bobby Hoying came in and took him 80 yards and beat us. And I was, they said, you scored too quick. And I said, well, if I would have known that on 4th down we could score, I would have just taken a knee on the first 3, but I didn't know that. And
you weren't in charge of the defensive line on that.
No, I was not.
So, Kenny, I know we've had you a little bit longer than we asked you to, but I do want to kind of close with this, man. Talk about this 2025 season, man, because it sounds like the coaching staff, Zach Taylor, everybody has the start of the season is a very important start. Getting off to a good start. You got to go up to the city up north to kick it off up there. Then you come home. Again, I think the first 3 out of 4 are on the road. But just talk about this season. What your expectations are with the team, and if there's any surprise players that you think might be an impact this year that fans don't think about right now.
Oh boy, I don't know about impact players, but I think it's going to be a good year. I mean, I think as long as Joe Burrow is healthy, we're going to be good. As long as we can protect him, we're going to be good. I think our defense under Al Golden will show improvement, and that's all we need is improvement in the defense. So I think it's going to be a pretty good year.
Yeah, we're excited. Has anything else before we let Kenny go?
No, can't let the poor guy go.
Yeah, I'm going to let you know. We had a whole case of Keystone Light here before Kenny got here, and I think there might be 1 or 2 left now.
And Kenny, I did not have one of them, I will say that.
No,
I didn't know that James had them here.
Yeah, we got them converted.
We had to hide a Keystone Light from Kenny when he walked in. So.
We'll see Kenny again in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Kenny, we got Jungle Jam coming up. I do want to kind of close with that, man. I know this is not something I like to talk about. We won't get into a ton of that, but this is the 5th year for Jungle to the Hall. Thank goodness, finally Ken Riley got in. Yep. His family was so excited about that. And I know all the former players like you were excited about that. But you and Willie Anderson right now are so close. But talk about, kind of your thoughts on Jungle Jam. Last year we had 3,000 fans over here in Newport. We're doing it again this year. But Talk about that. What that means to you guys as
Well, no,
former players.
Number one, it's fun to go to, and I think a lot of the older players. I mean, it's fun for us to engage with the fans. It's nice that they still remember who it is. But I want to commend you on what you do and the money that you give to charity from that event. That I think makes it all the more special, for all of us that go to that. So I really want to congratulate you on that.
Yeah, and again, guys, it's James, myself, Tom up here, but we got Craig and Dell and Tony and Mark and Brian. A big group of us really worked really hard to kind of pull this off. Now I'm probably forgetting some names here, but it's not just us three up here. There's a lot of people that work really hard on that, Kenny. But now we appreciate it, man. And one thing I guarantee you that this fan base will never let our Bengal legends be forgotten. And I know you've a ton of accolades that you've won throughout your career, even some recent ones, and then the Ring of Honor. Your name's up there definitely on Paycor Stadium. But we know we will keep fighting on our end. And I know the Bengals and Jeff Hops is working their butts off to make this Hall of Fame happen. And we're going to do what we can from the fans' perspective to kind of push you over the finish line. We expect you to be in there, brother. We cannot wait. We'll be celebrating with you up in Canton when that happens, buddy.
That'll work for me. I'll tell you that.
Well,
thank you for all your work.
You're gonna have to. We'll bring a case of Keystone Light up there to Canton for you.
Only one?
His limit's not going to be 3 that day. I guarantee you. Okay, we appreciate you being with us, man.
Thank you, guys.
Kenny.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kim.
All righty.
All right. So, hey,
Who do you want next?
if you see the bands right here, we'll get him going. So, guys, this view behind us, this is James' condo here. This isn't my condo, but look at all the boats out here. Beautiful day. The Reds won today. Bengals season's not too far behind us here, man. What a beautiful shot this is. Our next guest, I run into him all the time downtown. And a lot of times in this bridge behind us, I see him running. He runs like a 4.340. We talked about this last time. The guy can book it. But Tom, go ahead and introduce our next guest.
Well, James Rapine will say that he's allergic to the cold, but he's a man of all seasons, and is somebody that Bengals fans should follow all season, whether during the season or in the off season, where he's been invaluable. But a great follow from ESPN. Again, we welcome our good friend Ben Baby.
Ben, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thank you. Also, you did lie about the speed. It's faster than it's a little slower than that, but still faster than James Rapine. Let the record state. James has said for years he's faster than me. That is categorically false.
Did you tell Ben we're doing a fashion statement? Look at him.
It's just like Joe Burrow. Him and Joe Burrow.
Look at him.
My parents got this for me from India. They went recently, and I was like, oh, this is a good fit. The other stuff they got didn't fit. I mean, you could buy this probably anywhere, but I was like, you know what? It's perfect. As a Texan, I enjoy the heat. So it's nice this time of year to go out and.
So that's from halfway across the world.
Yes, correct.
We shop at the Bengals Pro Shop.
There you go.
and Cooks Sporting Goods. So guys, so real quick, guys. So we're out here. We're like, do we go inside for this show tonight? Our first show, start of season 6, or outside? Ben was like, I want to be outside. It feels great outside. It's Texas heat.
That's not true. Jimmy said Tommy's fat. He needs to lose weight. Make him sweat outside.
But James, go ahead and get us kicked off with Benny. We got a lot of stuff to get with.
Well, we just finished OTAs a little while ago. It is kind of off season before the craziness starts, Ben. First of all, we appreciate you joining us as always. But we'll just throw it right on the table and get started. Still, the lingering elephant in the room is the Trey Hendrickson situation. I think it was a week or so back. The good news was they're talking again. Unfortunately, nothing transpired from that. But, as a fan, I think I speak for a lot of fans here. The one thing that would be nice is to go into the season with not having a contract situation. Injuries we can't control. Certainly we had the Jamar situation last year. It would be nice. Not only Trey, we'll get the Stewart after, but if you had a crystal ball, is this going to happen before the season? Is this going to kind of give us some level ground going in? Or do you think this is going to linger right up to camp starts?
Yeah, I think that's probably the interesting question. And thank you all for having me here. It's a great venue. I come running here all the time, so it's nice to finally actually see what it looks like. Now I get a good view of it. Usually I'm just trying to catch my breath when I'm going past y'all on the bridge and going down here. But, it's funny. I was just, our ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported a couple weeks ago that Trey and the team were in talks. I was just actually texting Fowler a little bit right before we came on here about this. I'm very curious to see what this timeline is going to look like. When you looked at it, I think the Bengals, in talking to Katie Blackburn at owners' meetings earlier in the offseason, you definitely got the sense that they feel like they've tried to make they feel like there is a value that they have on Trey. They've made it a clear point that throughout this whole process, they've wanted to express that they still feel Trey is a valuable part of what they are going to do moving forward, and they're happy he's on the roster. Now, I think the rub is where does that value lie, which is why I asked Katie point blank. I said, at what point is it going to take for both of y'all to be happy, which then prompted the quote that Katie said, well, I think there's a number, at some point Trey's got to decide he's got to be happy. We think there's a number he should be happy at some point. It's up to him. That's a paraphrase, but that's the reason why she phrased it that way, is because I think for me, that's always the question. It's not about what, who thinks where they should be. It's what can someone live with for them to be able to play out this season. And we'll see where Trey stands. I understand from his perspective, you look at where the market sits, you look at where Myles Garrett got paid, you look at where Danielle Hunter got paid. That was a really big deal. A guy on his current team, similar age range, very similar production value. The money that he got, are the Bengals willing to go in and pay him at that level? And I think that's probably the thing that people don't understand about this. Cincinnati currently has the money. It has the ability, not just now, but in the future, to not only pay Trey probably enough cash to get him to where he needs to get, but also down the line they have the cap space to do it. I think there is a question of, can he replicate this production long term? I think for my money, this has been the best value signing in the NFL over God knows how long. The production you're getting out of him at 4 years, $60 million initially, 4-time Pro Bowler, one of the team's first All-Pro players in nearly a decade, truly phenomenal. I think the Bengals, you got to give their front office credit for finding him, committing to him back when they got him in 21. But if you're Trey, you've overperformed that. And I think he made the point, that his deal has been backloaded the entire time. Had he not produced, the Bengals could have gotten rid of him with very little dead money. But he's, made it a point to be here and show why he's worth that value. So I understand both sides of it. When will it get sorted out? I think that remains to be seen. But, will it come to a point where it's in both sides' best interest to go ahead, see what the best offer is on the table, so that way everybody can move forward with the 2025 season?
You want to hit Stewart as well?
Like that. Another figure is, keep hearing over 30. Well, Trey's over 30. Trey's going to be 31 during this season. When you hear maybe he wants a 4-year deal, what do you see? Because I've read different analysis. A pass rusher over 30, and a lot of times their number of snaps in games decrease dramatically, and their production slips as well. I mean, do you think in the position he is, about to turn 31, he can look at a team like the Bengals and say, I want 4 years, and I want top money?
Yeah, I think that's part of the risk that you look at in the Bengals. I think when they go out and they sign these deals and they make these contracts, one thing they look at is minimizing risk like that, so you're not on the hook for a ton of dead money. Philosophically, something they really do not like. They like the ability to be flexible year in, year out. And you look at the data, we pulled it at ESPN this offseason, and it definitely is not in favor of guys turning 30 at that position. And the one thing, in talking to people in Trey's camp, I think one of the things that I found fascinating is that when you look at his career, he didn't have the same usage early in New Orleans that maybe other people do. And so while he may be turning 31 and has X number of years in the league, it wasn't like he was getting the same snap count, the same usage rate that other people may have had earlier in their careers. It was really that last year in New Orleans where he really came on, and then he's been in Cincinnati playing at a Pro Bowl and All-Pro level for 4 years. So there's that aspect of it. The other notion is that Trey's work ethic has been noted by so many people, a guy who's always in the building, always putting in work. So someone who's going to maybe lose a step as they get older, you're going to know that he's putting in the work in. So that's a mitigating factor against those numbers. But I think the fact of the matter is those numbers are there. How do you reconcile that with what he means to this team and what he means to this defense, and a defense that has to be better this year? And I think the stakes, quite frankly, have never been higher for this team and under Zach Taylor.
So just give us I know you don't know all the inside stuff on this, but does he sign before the season starts, you think? You think they get a deal done?
The way the schedule looks, this is I don't have any inside info on this, but the way the schedule looks, it would make sense for Trey to maybe sit out those first 2 games if he wanted to go and maximize that leverage, because the Bengals, quite frankly, should win those first 2 games. I checked today on ESPN, they're 5.5-point favorites in both of those. They should theoretically be able to take care of business. And if you're Trey, you want to go out, but it's a double-edged sword, because what happens? They go out, they play well, defense looks good. All of a sudden, that hurts your value. So that's the catch-22 when you want to maximize that leverage. Trey's a guy who loves being on the field. He loves practicing. He loves being around the game. So I know this has got to be killing him to not be out there being involved. So, I think it's going to go on a case-by-case basis. I know of negotiations in the past with this team where guys have, maybe wanted to sit out games, and then all of a sudden they change their mind quickly and they sign whatever's on the table and they go out there and they play. So, I think this could definitely evolve as we go through camp, because it is a big contract negotiation.
Interesting, because, what we don't want, as I sit here speaking for myself, I don't want this distraction going into camp. So hopefully I get this thing worked out before camp starts, because that's a really big deal, big distraction, just like Jamar was last year. So let's talk about Stewart, man. We've got a lot of stuff to hit on with you here. So what a unique situation we have here with our first-round draft pick. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Shamar, this is really one of the most fascinating rookie contract disputes that we've seen in quite some time. It's really not very common, dating back to the 2011 collective bargaining agreement that the league and the NFLPA made. And part of the reason was because when they installed that 2011 CBA, they installed the rookie wage scale. It really slotted the money for picks much like they do in baseball. And there's a few things that you can negotiate. And, some of the contract language, some of the guarantees as to when they get paid, how much you get paid as a training camp roster bonus, things of that nature. What makes the Shamar situation unique is that there's also a participation waiver that gets signed, and that, if you were to get hurt, you go out and you're able to negotiate your rookie contract as if the injury never occurred. It's that both sides would operate in good faith. And, by not signing the waiver, the way that I've had it been told to me is that helps, that's really the only leverage they have. Because if you're out there participating, there's really nothing for you to do when you're trying to haggle over this contract not getting signed. And so, I've been in constant communication with the folks who are kind of handling that deal. And I think they're very steadfast in their belief that, they just want the previous language that Amarius had as the 18th pick. And I think that's what makes this challenging, is that Shamar got drafted a pick higher than Amarius. I think if he was drafted 19th instead of 17th, this becomes a really different thing. And it sounds crazy, but historically around the league, generally you do not introduce new terms to a higher pick, if that makes sense. If you go out and you have the 19th pick, the 20th pick, then you're more likely to have those clauses in there. And the Bengals, from the outset have said, listen, we're not giving anybody anything new. It might be new for them, but this seems pretty standard around the league. The camp bonus, that got rectified pretty quickly. But now are they going to be able to find some middle ground on this language? That seems, I think one of those sides, they're going to have to find, some way to see what's going to work out in their best interest. I've talked to agents for other first-round picks who in the past they've had disputes. And I had a guy tell me, listen, we were haggling over maybe, a handful of thousands of dollars. And at that point, it wasn't worth it. We needed to get our guy on the field, get him ready. There's a lot of questions about Shamar's production. At what point did they say, we don't love the language, but we need to get him on the field? There's a lot of questions about him. But they believe that, this is something that they're pretty steadfast on. And Shamar, I think to his credit, has articulated it pretty well. I think some of his comments have been pretty fascinating, but I think he truly believes in what he's fighting for. And, I think, and Ted Karras, had an interesting point. Being a PA guy, he says, listen, as a player, we always want to be very particular about the guarantee language, because that's something that's so important to us compared to the other sports. We're so bad about having guaranteed language in our contracts. And so they want to make sure that they're trying to do everything they can. So it's an incredibly nuanced conversation, but, both sides seem to be pretty dug in. So it's going to take some movement on one of those sides. And, quite frankly, I don't know if the Bengals are going to be the one to do it. Yeah. So I think it might be up to Shamar and his side to say, we don't love it, but we might not have a choice here.
Yeah, interesting. I know, I know Tom and I will dig into this conversation. We'll switch gears slightly here. So some big news, Cincinnati, Hamilton County this week, the stadium deal, which I know there's still some backroom stuff, politics going on the back end of this stuff, but it sounds like they finally struck a deal. Hamilton County Commissioners and Cincinnati Bengals have been going negotiating for quite a while on this new stadium deal. But give us your take on this, man. Just you and I talked earlier this week about this, and it was pretty interesting, your take on this.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like when I got here in 2019, this was really as much as I cared about the on-field product. The number one thing that I was most curious about was the stadium, because how good and how competitive would the franchise be as they got closer to the point when they needed to renew? Because I think I don't think it takes a lot of common sense to understand that if you have a better team, you're more likely going to be able to go to the table with a little better leveraging power. And the Bengals have been better over these last few years. I think it's been fascinating to watch around the country how much stomach municipalities have to subsidize stadiums, especially at the NFL level. You see some of the deals that get brokered. You see a lot of state houses get involved to help maybe cover the cost and not put that on cities and counties. I think in talking to in talking to folks, especially about this since it happened, I think what was really important here, especially and when you can go back and listen to the meeting on Thursday, the county was very adamant that they wanted that liability that they're up to capped at $350, whereas in the previous lease it was uncapped. And you can see when they went through and signed different understandings of agreement between the county and the team, that's something that they tried to limit as they move forward. They were happy to get some sort of rent, $1 million the first couple of years, then it increases $2+ as you go through the life of the deal. But I think quite frankly, the Bengals probably should be pretty happy about where they're at. They never ended up going up higher in their investment of $120 million. The price for the total project kept dropping. $1.2 billion was the initial when the master plan came out. I think everyone understood that probably was never going to happen. But then it dropped to, I believe, $830, and then and the last round dropped to $470, and the Bengals' involvement never really went up in that case. So the county over time reduced their risk. Now, will they get state funding? I think that remains to be seen. We've heard them say both sides want to continue to go out and seek state funding. As a state house going to give that to them. I thought what was interesting, in looking at, I don't know if y'all have been to the Cincinnati Open up at the Lindner Center. It's a fantastic event. I think the crown jewel sporting event in the Midwest. When you look at the international talent that choose to come to Cincinnati every year, they don't have to, but they do, and you can go see some of the world's top athletes come and play each summer, and it's been fun. I've been the last few years. That was actually, I don't know how much y'all have kept up with that situation, but they were very much at risk of losing
to Charlotte.
Yeah. And Charlotte was willing to go in, spend a lot of money, and Charlotte was cited as spending a lot of money on the Panthers' new stadium at a percentage that's higher than what Cincinnati's paying for renovations of Paycor. But I was there. That last year was rumored to leave. The fan turnout was really strong, and then the private investors, Ben Navarro and BMO Capital, they saw that and they decided to keep the tournament here. But what's most fascinating is that when they went to terms with the Warren Port, they took majority funding of that deal. They had a 51-49 split, and they got state money for that. Now, granted, not as much in proportion, and not as much in terms of total money that you're asking for compared to what the Bengals are looking for. But I thought those percentages were interesting, especially given that there was significant competition to get that event over there. I know that they would have loved to have that over there. Emma Navarro, one of the top rising women's players in tennis. So, I think that it was interesting that both of those negotiations are going on. But all things considered, I think both sides are probably happy to get this done. Hamilton County's happy to keep the Bengals on the riverfront. As you saw in Katie Blackburn's statement, they were happy to stay down here. I think they've always wanted to stay down here in the Banks. I mean, you can't argue with this situation, with this setup. So, we'll see what this looks like as they move forward. But, from talking to folks, I think everybody's happy to just get this thing done.
Yeah, I got one more thing to add on that, but Tom, I know you want something you want to add to this.
Well, actually, I was going to add both. One on the Shamar Stewart. Were you surprised at all? And David Fulcher's right here. We'll see if he nods or not. For a guy, and I understand his frustration, to make the comments that he made with such force and articulation, very smart young man. Where's his agent? Yeah. For a rookie put on an NFL helmet to be speaking like that on all aspects of the organization. It was. I watched him do that, and I flipped the channel, and the movie Jaws was on. I didn't see any difference. Is that wise for a rookie to do that, dealing with the Bengals
I mean, that's beyond my purview to advise what players should or shouldn't be saying. As a media person, I am more than happy when they want to. I mean, I'm the one who asked them the question, and I was not expecting that answer, to be honest. But as a media person, I'm never going to tell guys, hey, you shouldn't talk, because I will take
You
that.
asked the question?
I did, yes.
You were throwing the blood in the water.
I wasn't. Listen, I don't bait anybody. I make it a point. Hey, listen, anytime that the players start jawing at me, I said, listen, guys, I'm not leading you any questions. Me and Jamar will get into it. I'm like, there are no trick questions here. I promise you. But I think that this is a different kind of rookie that you're seeing as they come into the league. I think guys, especially in the NIL era and the portal era, college players have never been more empowered. And, quite frankly, I think especially at the college level, it's probably for the better, because a lot of times coaches could really steer a player's career, and had probably way too much control. And the NCAA and the players have really fought to do that. But I do think that they come in with probably a greater sense of empowerment. Now, I think, it was interesting. Ted Karras was asked about that. Do you kind of earn the right to go out and do that? And Ted basically said there's no such thing. Like, there's no such thing as earning the right. Guys, more than, that's his prerogative to go out there and do that. I think, probably Zach Taylor did not love it. I think that was made very clear when we talked to Zach at the end of minicamp. I think there was a conversation had about that. But, I think that you'll see how that continues to develop. Everybody's been positive about Shamar, and quite frankly, they need him to come in and produce. They when you look at what they have at edge rusher moving forward, the Bengals are in the spot where they need this kid to come in, and they took a big risk in signing somebody who didn't have that production, and they've got to be justified in making the right selection as well. So there's risk on their end too. So I think both sides going to have to find a way to work together and make this work. I think it seems to be in the best interest for both of them.
On the stadium issue, and then we're going to get to James. It's not signed yet. It's agreed to.
Correct.
There's a handshake. It's not signed yet. There were some. See, I started to curse.
We have ghetto birds flying over. We got,
there were some people in this town, maybe influential, working against any type of deal, hoping that there would never be a deal, hoping, for the U-Hauls and the Mayflowers and the Penske trucks to be rolling up across the river at Paul Brown Stadium. Is there still a trap door that this does not happen, or do you think we're good? You've been covering it.
Anytime you have an MOU or an LOI signed, you're 99% of the way there. Now, those are the big terms. We'll see what the final clauses look like, and they'll now continue to negotiate that. But I don't think you sign the LOI and extend the deadline if you don't feel like both sides feel like it's good to move forward. There was so much movement these last few weeks by switching law firms, going out, getting rid of Frost, Brown, and Todd, I believe, and then going to Dinsmore and Scholl, who had been, and Frost had done it for such a long time. And now you come in. It seems like everybody is good enough when you get to that LOI stage. Again, if you're the Bengals, you're not increasing the amount you're getting into it on the deal. You're sitting there at the amount that G5 loan is going to be at. The county's capped at $350. You like the terms. I think everybody, it seems, likes all the main tenets of the deal. And so we'll see as they go over the language. But as we know, with the Shamar Stewart case, I think there is a commonality in that the Bengals do not budge on language that they feel like is important to them. And they are very hard negotiators. That is known very well around the league. But I think, again, just like with Shamar, I think now you've reached a point where it's probably in the best interest of both sides to iron this out and move forward. And it seems like both seem content with what they have currently on the table.
Yeah, I had one more thing, and I'll turn it over to James here. Just, I don't think it's really been said publicly a whole lot here, but for the Bengals in the county to finally get this thing knocked out, kudos to the Brown family, and kudos to Dumas, Treehouse, and Alicia Reese, and all those folks in Hamilton County. I know it was closed doors meetings, knockdown, drag out, a lot of stress, a lot of negotiating on them, but we appreciate the Bengals in Hamilton County for working through that, man. I'm just glad it's almost done. So, James, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, it's been an interesting offseason. Certainly, Jamar, that got closed. Nothing happened with Trey. We've talked about that. We talked about the Shamar situation. Looking forward to training camp, which is going to be here before we know it, actually, I believe the week after Jungle Jam. Ben, what's a story that Bengals fans can keep an eye on entering training camp? Hey, this is a position battle. This is a rookie to watch. That's one thing we didn't touch on other than Shamar. although it was a smaller rookie class, 6 this year versus 10 last year, is there a rookie that stood out in OTAs, in their rookie mini camps? What can fans look forward to as we get ready to kick off the 2025 season?
Yeah, it's tough with the rookies that they got because you would like to see the first round, but again, you only get to see so much. We'll learn a little bit more about these young linemen once we get into camp, once they go full contact, once they get deeper into those first 3 days of camp. So we'll learn a little bit more. We'll see what Taj Brooks, running back out of Texas Tech, played for my guy Joey McGuire out there, what he looks like, what he can bring to the table. I'm very curious to see about some of the younger players on rookie deals currently, how much they continue to mature. And two guys, I think Andre Yoshibas, how much can he continue to ascend? I know that in the building, they are very high on him. He's very confident in what he can bring to the table and how well he can win against corners. And I think, you talk to folks, they believe, and on other teams, he'd probably be a bona fide number 2 option. And you can see him and Burrow have a very good rapport, especially in the red zone. He's got more touchdowns than Puka Nacua, Zay Flowers, and with only 51 receptions, which is kind of incredible when you think about it. And how much more can he continue to ascend? Jermaine Burton, I think I'm curious to see how they use him. I know that there's been a lot said about where he's at, kind of what he's done. Now when you draft him in the 3rd round, you're hoping to see, can he be potentially your wide receiver 2? Now you've got that locked up. That's not really a question anymore. So I think the conversation shifts. Can he be someone who you can trust on a 3rd down, like we saw, I believe it was at the Baltimore game last year, if I'm not mistaken, a couple 4th downs where he was the option, and you want a guy like that. And, can he come down, be in good sync with Burrow to make those plays when his number is called? Can he continue to do the things on and off the field to just be a pro? I think that's the biggest thing. Last time I was on with y'all, I asked TJ Hushmanzada about that, and I think that Hush had a great answer about Jermaine just needing to kind of lock in and kind of understand those things on how to be a successful professional, not just an NFL player, which I think everybody in the building has raved about that with Jermaine. But we'll see. I think it's going to take a full year and then some for him to prove that, and I think he knows that as well. But that secondary, I think, is the one I'm going to keep my eye on all on training camp, because I think this team is, obviously going to go as his defense goes. But that secondary's got to be better. I still am a firm believer in Cam Taylor-Britt. I think he can play at a really high level. You've got a lot of high draft picks invested on that side of the ball. You've got Josh Newton out there. You've got DJ Turner, who's going to get some good reps. We'll see what Dax Hill looks like coming back from his injury. But that secondary, I think, has got to play better. We'll see what that partnership between Geno Stone and Jordan Battle, the more reps that they get together, I think it's huge. I think the fact that you're not going to shuffle them around as much, that you're going to go into the season with the plan that Jordan's going to be our starter from day one. He's going to play next to Geno. They're going to get a good, find a way to kind of balance each other out. All of those things are going to be incredibly beneficial for them. So those are the guys I'm going to be watching. And I think, again, it's going to be a huge hamp because this team is going to have such high expectations for this 2025 season.
One more thing, Ben, before we let you go, if you can touch on it. In the small sample size that you've seen thus far, what's been the biggest difference with the way Al Golden's run his defense versus what Lou did in years past?
Yeah, I think that there's, you hear a lot of things, and I think it's always you want to pump the brakes sometimes when you see a coordinator change come in. Everyone talks about everything's going to be done a little bit differently. I think the biggest thing is that Al's probably going to simplify things for these younger players, want them to play faster. We've seen an emphasis on maybe turnover drills, some tackling drills. All that stuff was also done previously, but I think the biggest thing is getting guys to play fast, not having players overthink. I think you saw that come to fruition even at the end of last year, and I think Lou is a very good defensive coordinator. I think he's going to do great with Indianapolis with the players that they've got him over there. They went out and got Charvarius Ward. I think that's a type of corner that really that excels in Lou's kind of defense. But I think that when you saw that last half of the year, they played more man coverage. They won 5 straight games. I don't think it was rocket science. I think you go out and you simplify things for those defensive backs. It's going to help them on the back end. It's also going to give that front more time to get to the quarterback. You go talk to guys on that side of the ball, they will tell you got to marry pass coverage and pass rush. Both of those got to work in unison. If one's not working, you're not going to win as a defense on any given play. So, we'll see how that continues to mature and develop. But I think, if Al can tap into that, guys loved him when he was here, obviously has done a lot of good things at the college level, which is no small feat. I think the guys left coaching in the college game are legitimately good coaches. They're not just control guys who can put their thumb on players, tell them to do what they want, say, you don't like it, too bad, you're not going anywhere. You've got to really know how to coach now, really know how to manage. So if you're a good college coach now, I think you're legitimately a good coach. That hasn't always been the case. So I think Al, coming from Notre Dame, how much success he's had, I think it's going to bode very well for this defense.
Interesting. So, Ben, we appreciate you being here. We hope to see you at Jungle Jam. We hope you and the fam can make it. But I can't imagine any of our viewers not knowing where to find you. But talk to everybody. Where do they find you and where do they follow you?
Yeah, on the ESPN app, that's where I spend a lot of my time these days. We're rolling out our ESPN direct-to-consumer that's going to launch this summer. We've got a lot of personalized Bengals content that'll be coming out on a daily basis. I know I'm going to Bristol here in a couple of weeks. We're really excited about that launch, that rollout. I can't wait to see how it's going to enhance, not just, if you're a Bengals fan, but if you're a Reds fan, whatever you're a fan of, hopefully we've got you covered. I know that we're really excited about that, and I can't wait to see what it looks like when it drops.
And we love following you, brother. We appreciate you being here.
Of course. Thank y'all for having me. Yes.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you, man.
Next time it's gonna be a fashion statement.
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
gonna
outdo
talk
you next
fashion.
time.
I don't know. That's a high bar to clear, so y'all better live up to it. Thank y'all.
All right, we'll see you,
Thanks,
buddy.
man.
We'll see you. Tom, Ben, we appreciate Ben being here with us. Man, fun stuff here with Kenny and
solid
Ben.
guests thus
Two
far.
solid guests, but nobody's ever dressed like Ben has in our show. I feel like I need to be like Joe Burrow and wear one of them jackets without a back on it.
Versace.
Versace.
I didn't know.
Versace.
I didn't know.
That's what you say. So, Tom, go and introduce our next guest, buddy.
Well, he might shop at the same store that we do, but he is known as a fashion magnet along with the best safety in Bengals history. So a leader in Super Bowl 23, Pro Bowls, All-Pro, toughest hitter in the history of the team from the defensive backfield, number 33, David Fulcher. Whichever way's easiest.
Watch the wires. We're good. Fulcher, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you.
y'all too, man. Thanks for having the old guy, man.
We
Got you. We got you here. We got the grandbaby here.
Got the grandbaby here, man. I
This
got
is
the whole family
exciting.
here, man.
Exciting.
There's three of us on this panel right now that are grandfathers. So, James, you got a couple more years to go before that happens.
She's
shaking her
head.
Dave, thanks for being here with us. We've got a lot of stuff to kind of run by you, buddy. Again, Jungle Jam. Dave is going to be there as well, man. We're going to have a lot of fun. Him and his wife and Kayla, his daughter, are going to be there with a setup. If you've ever been to our tailgate, you know exactly what's going to be available for you. So make sure you get down to Jungle Jam and visit his tent and say hi to Judy, his better half, for sure. And just when you just understand, all of us on this panel have married up. No more has married up than this guy right here, David Fulcher.
What do they call it? I'll kick your coverage.
Yeah, I'll kick your coverage. Man.
Yeah,
I didn't know you could punt too.
This is going
Hey,
to be
I couldn't punt, but I tried to punt, man. But I'll kick my coverage.
his rookie Jungle Jam. He had a family vacation, I believe,
That's right,
last
that's
year.
right.
Yeah, I
So,
did. We were on
yeah.
family vacation. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's
This
right.
time we did it earlier in the year so we could be here.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
So Tom, get us kicked off, man. We got a lot of stuff to run by David.
Well, I'm going to do a little bit of rerunning from when we talked to Ben. And I saw Dave over shaking his head, talking about our first round draft pick, Shamar. And Bengals have their side. He has his. Initially, when it came out, it looked like the Bengals had the black hat on. Then we get all the facts. Maybe not black, maybe a little more tan. But would you talk to the young players? You always have. Would you advise that young man to have popped off in the diatribe he did, going over every part of the organization the way he did, or can you let your agent wear the black hat? Be the big
Yeah.
man?
You first of all, as a veteran and a rookie comes in like that, your mouth is supposed to be quiet. Whether you like what's going on or not, talk to us. If you're going to get some advice, why don't you get it from the guys who's been there? And I heard you say, where's his agent? Well, that's the agent's job, not the player's job. The player's job is to come out to perform, it's supposed to play, do what he's supposed to do. Contracts are always good, bad, or ugly. And in this case, this one's going pretty ugly. But as a rookie, because my rookie year in 1986, when I came in here, when LeBeau said, I want my defense to go out on the field, I wasn't paying attention to last year's defense. I was paying attention that I was going to be the starting strong safety. So I ran out there on the field. And then when I heard the veteran say, hey, rookie, it ain't your turn yet, I'm like, I belong here. And then I had to go off the field. And 2 days of doing that, the third day, LeBeau said, 33, you belong in there now. So as a player, as a veteran, and we know that this franchise has their ups and downs when it comes to certain things, you're coming here to do a job. And then keep your mouth quiet, do your job. If you don't like it, Tell your agent what you don't like and let him be the bad guy.
You were there in the 80s through a lot. I mean, you knew it was late summer when the Bengals went to Wilmington and their first-round draft pick wasn't there.
Yes.
But it always seemed like, and the Bengals have always tried to draft a powerful pass rusher. And I call it draft kryptonite. It never seems to work. And a lot of times it was a guy that was holding out, didn't get to camp on time, got behind, and that year and then subsequently his career never seemed to claw back in it. I mean, would you tell him, I know it's going to hurt. I know you got to swallow some pride. It's your first deal. You're going to get another one. Get in there and get to work?
I would. I mean, I know, first rounders, most of the time, first round guys are, the last guys to sign. But when you got the guy in front of you signed and you got the guy behind you signed, well, that's a different ballgame. That's management. That's agent. It's not you. But you have to show up. And what I think he's doing now, he's taking a lot of mental reps. He's not getting the physical stuff going in there. He's not doing the pass rush. He's not beating up on the O-line. But he's getting the mental stuff that he's paying attention to. So that kind of helps because in the past, number one picks are back home in their hometown working out at their high school or a place the agent got them working out, and they don't get to see the team at all. He's in a tough spot. And I think that clause that's in that the Bengals have never option or had that option to mess with that clause. How long have they been a franchise? How long have they been around? It doesn't change unless you make the change. And I can understand what he's saying, but yet I can understand that, he's frustrated because he wants to get out there and play with his team. But we got to remember he is a rookie, and he's not a Cincinnati Bengal yet. But he's still a rookie, and just because he signed or he has a contract or he doesn't have one, but he's there, he's still an outsider looking in, and I think he wants to get in there and he wants to play.
James?
Kenny touched on this a little bit, David, but I'm curious to get your perspective. 3 or 4 weeks before season starts, we are now. Are you in the weight room throwing up as much weight as you can? Are you spending time with the family before things get crazy? What did this time of the year look like for you as a player?
This is probably the only time that I can spend with my wife and my kids. Yeah, because when the season starts, when we show up that first day, and I remember that first day going into Wilmington, nothing else mattered. I had a job to do. I had to get myself prepared. I couldn't have any outside distractions. And it's hard because not only does the family go through, the absence of their dad or their husband, but you kind of go through things too, because now I'm finna spend the next 4 or 5 months with these guys getting ourselves ready for a championship season. So it's hard. But you got to be able to handle that. And like I said, being a rookie, when you get drafted, and kid you not, when I got drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, there was that little pop-up going, oh no, not the Bengals. I mean, think about it, because I've seen so many players. Ricky Hundley come from University of Arizona, don't sign with the Bengals. He's not going there. Guys won't come here. And it's like, why? Why won't they come here? And then when you start seeing it before you get drafted, and all of a sudden you get drafted by him, you're going, after 30 years of being in Cincinnati, love Bengal Jim, but if I'm being drafted and I know Bengal Jim, I don't want to see Bengal Jim because of how things have been going on with organizational situation with the Bengals. But, as a rookie, when I came in here, man, I had to get prepared. I knew I had a job to do. And I tell people this, they always ask me about, when you play football, was it a job? Brown told me, if you hit people, I'll keep paying you. I said, really? Is it that easy? Because I know I can hit people. And then I started believing that I belonged there. Like I said, 3 days of being at Spinney Field in mini camps, I felt like I belonged there. I knew these guys were older and some of them were fast. I wasn't really fast. I mean, I just knew where the ball was. And if I could just play like I know how to play, then David Fulcher is going to be successful in the NFL. And I knew I was 240 pounds. Well, I came in at 228, got up to 240, 245, Super Bowl 23, I'm 250. I played my best game ever in Super Bowl 23, and I was 250 pounds. And I was not supposed to be back there doing what I was doing, but I did because I had the confidence in myself.
You were heavier than our starting defensive end, Jim Scow.
We had, let me tell you something. That team, that defensive team, there were only two people heavier than me. Jim Crumry and Reggie Williams. Everybody else, I was heavier than. And I was playing way back there, 15 yards off the line of scrimmage.
And there was no receivers or running backs when they get hit by you.
Well, football has changed, man. I mean, they're protecting. So this is I'm probably going off the script here, but the NFL is a pass-happy football. It's all about passing, throwing the ball up and down the field, scoring 50 points. As a defender, you don't want to be that guy on the other side getting up 50 points. Well, back when we were playing, we had a fullback and a tailback and a tight end, 2 wide receivers, maybe a back coming out the backfield. So it was all about running the football back then, and passing here, passing there. But, today, I couldn't play in the NFL today, not at safety. It'd be another position, or I'd be a third down guy coming off the bench.
You might be a DN in today's football.
Could be a defensive end.
So let's talk about this. So you obviously played with one of the best Bengal secondaries ever in that Super Bowl 88, 89 Super Bowl. You had Phillips, Eric Thomas, Wilcox. You kind of just talk about today's team in that secondary. What do you see? Any similarities? Anything at all you see?
The only similarity I see, Jim, is they're all defensive backs.
Okay.
But to compare our defensive backs to today's defensive backs, we had a lot of free will, meaning I would come to LeBeau and say, I see something. Super Bowl 23, I'm playing tight end up on the line of scrimmage. And every time I would get on the line of scrimmage, the tight end would block down on the end. I go to the sideline and say, Coach, I think I can go get Joe Montana. He said, what are you talking about? I said, just run a regular defense, put me up there. That tight end keeps blocking down. I'll tell Jim Scow, block down, you grab him, I'm gone. He said, you better get there, because if you don't get there, we're in trouble. And sure enough, that next play, boom, I sacked Joe Montana. The secondary they got today, they're young guys. I don't know if they've found themselves yet. I know some people go, what do you mean by find themselves? Well, what I did at Alabama ain't the same thing when you come to the NFL. You're the fastest, one of the best guys on the Alabama or whatever team that is. But when you get here, things change. And this is how I tell people the story about the way I see the NFL. When I was in high school, driving down the street in the car and listening to music, high school's like 1, 2 on the volume. College is about 5 to 6. NFL is 10. So whenever you get in your car and you turn the music all the way up to 10, you're in the NFL now. So when I describe that, people look at me and go, wow, man, I never even thought about that, because the NFL is the best of the best. College, all of them look good, but there's probably 1 or 2 that's better than the other guy. And then in high school, you just flip a coin and say, boy, I hope and pray this guy can play. But it's a little bit different. And the secondary that we got today can be good. And I heard you guys talking earlier about head defensive coordinator. And I know that question might come up, so I'm a little bit. There are systems, and then there are D coordinators. You got players that can play in some systems, but as a defensive coordinator, you got to surround your players with what they do to make your system look good. Dick LeBeau did that with me when I came to Cincinnati, where we started the zone blitz. Most people they see it because of Troy Polamalu in Pittsburgh. Well, it started here, but it was a 250-pound safety playing linebacker, playing nickel, playing defensive end, dropping to the flat, doing all these things that teams wasn't ready for. When you don't have that kind of get up and go on this defense, and then you bring in a new coordinator. One guy did not want to play for this coordinator who played linebacker for him. It's because some systems are difficult for some players, where you have to change your system to the player and not have a player playing the system. It's a little different, man. And today's game is about scoring as many points as you can. Can you put the players that they've got in position to make plays like they did 30 years ago? Because 30 years ago, you ran the football and it's blocking and tackling. Today, it's not a lot of running, but it's more throwing. And are you ready to play in this system that's going to allow you to free up and do what you need to do.
Yeah. Tom?
You were mentioning about this year's team. I'm going to bring up one guy in particular. And we talked with your teammate Eric Thomas about him last year when he was struggling. That's Cam Taylor-Britt. After 3 years in the league, everybody was screaming he belonged in the Pro Bowl. And then last year, the first half of the year, something was wrong. He was a step slow. He was in the wrong place. Receivers were bullying him. Finally, he got benched, got another try, got benched again due to injury, came back in, and then, along with the rest of the team, right around Thanksgiving, he really seemed to figure it out, and he was that guy again. Eric Thomas, remember Jimmy during that interview, I think he only used one word, technique. It's his technique thing. Is that him, something he needs to work on? Is it confidence? And do we get that? It's his contract year. Do we get that guy back for 17 games this year?
I think you will. I do think that he I watched a little bit of this past season of him, and the things that he did a year ago, things got different. See, people, when you watch film, you the student of the game, and you watch other players and you watch receivers and whatnot, well, they're doing the same thing to you. So his breakout year a year ago, which he was all over the place, people weren't going to let him do that. And then he was pushing too hard. And you gotta, I know it sounds crazy, but you got to slow down and figure out where you are. And what I mean by that is he last year he was jumping routes, instinct, knowing where the ball is. He was jumping routes. This year he was jumping routes that weren't there. And and he was trying to make something happen, and it wasn't happening, so they benched him. And I've been there and I've done that. I've seen myself get out there sometime, and I go, whoa, let me slow down a little bit. I'm trying to make plays when the ball's way on the other side of the field. That's why they got the other guys over there. David, you stay home. And he just, I think Britt has a great future ahead of him. But my dad told me many, many years ago, you cannot read your press clippings. When you start reading the newspaper and they saying how good you really are, your head gets a little bit bigger. And I think he had one of those moments last year that he thought he was the best in the league, and he started trying to do things that weren't there. Just let it happen. Do what you do best. Get up there, bump a guy, cover him. If you got the flat, you know where the ball should be coming. And I think that's where, as a former player, and when I played, like I said, I don't think I was fast. Everybody said I was fast. Maybe quick from A to B. But I had an instinct. I had a nose for where the ball is. I got a big nose, but I got a nose for where the ball's going. And I think you have to, you can't gamble all the time. You got to slow it down. And I think Britt was gambling a lot because of what he did the year before. But other people are watching him on defense, and those offenses change plays, run different routes, and he looked like he had never played football before.
James?
One thing we like about this show is certainly having the former players on, the behind-the-scenes stories, that insight. And again, Dave, we appreciate you and your family for joining us. Talk about how you guys got the plays in the huddle, or maybe they were just signs. You look at today's NFL, usually the Mike linebacker has the green thing on.
Yes.
Everybody kind of comes in, he yells the play. How did it work back in your day? How did you know, hey, I'm going to get up on the line, I'm going to blitz the quarterback? How was that relayed when you played football?
Well, it's watching film, studying your opponent. I knew Brent Jones wasn't going to be running down the field trying to catch touchdowns. He's standing there, he block. And I think a lot of it, man, is that our secondary, and I'm pretty sure the guys probably do the same thing, but I don't know that. But we ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. We did a whole lot of stuff together. When I got in the game and I thought I saw something, I would tell Eric Thomas, "You take the deep third, and I'm gonna take the half, or I'm gonna take the corner. You take the over the top." And LeBeau gave us that option to have green lights. And there were a lot of times, man, I was making plays that I even amused myself, going, "How the heck did I do that? How did I get over there?" But we communicated, we talked all day. In practice, when we built the SWAT team, it wasn't just our 4 starters. It was Barney Bussey. It was Ray Horton. It was, other guys that played in that secondary with us that didn't get the recognition that we got because we made the poster. But the SWAT team was all of us, and we all talked and helped each other. Practice, sideline guys. Bussey's my backup, but when I got out of the game or if something went wrong or I'm tired or I wasn't playing well and Barney came in, the only difference is just the uniform, 27 and 33. Maybe a little bit in height. Barney much shorter than I am, but we didn't lose a beat, and we practiced like that. We watched film like that. We went to dinner like that. There's so much going on in NFL today. I don't know if these guys really do that a lot. But we knew what was in front of us. We studied film. Right? I hear Peyton Manning always talk about student of the game. This podcast wouldn't be as good as it is if you guys didn't work on what you're doing. And it's the same way with football, any sport. But when you're working as a team, I got to know what my corner's doing. I got to know what my free safety's doing. I got to know what Tim Crumry's doing up front. If Timmy's going left, I know Timmy's got left taken care of. Dave, you're supposed to be right. I can't go left with Timmy because if I go left with Timmy, they're going right up the middle. So it's a balance of knowing defensive calls, knowing the plays, and knowing your opponent. Study your opponent. These guys, you're going to play, Britt, he's going to play against some of the best receivers in this league. And if he's just showing up to practice and then get out there on Sunday, he has no idea what that guy's doing in front of him. Just because he runs a route. But, dude, that's the hardest thing to do is to cover a moving target. That's why I used to love these guys. Push him in. When Eric Thomas will get outside, he's going to funnel that guy into the middle, and that's where David Fulcher is.
David, I tell you what, man, we really appreciate you coming here tonight, and love you and a fan. You guys are the best people in the world, but I just got to let everybody know, man, we had Kenny Anderson here early. As good as Kenny was on the field, as good as David was on the field, these guys are extremely involved in our community, man, and it's so cool, man. It's just there's between the Reds and the Bengals, there's so many players that are just so involved in our community. Talk about, just quickly, briefly, if you can. We got 5 more minutes left in the show. We still got to talk a little bit of Jungle Jim. But talk about what you're doing off the field nowadays from a foundation perspective, some of the things you're doing. You're doing all kinds of stuff in the city that I don't think people really know about.
I was fortunate to play in the NFL. I never thought I would make it to the NFL coming from Los Angeles. I was worried about walking out of LA and maybe not getting carried out. When I got drafted by the Bengals, after 8 seasons playing with the Bengals, I got released and I went to the Raiders, and I came home and I met my wife, Judy. And in 95, I retired. In 97, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Had no idea what it was. They didn't tell us it was MS. They probably gave us about 10 different things that she was sick with. And they're like, I have no idea. What are you talking about? Stroke, Guillain-Barré, all these things, transverse myelitis. So they were giving her a bunch of medicine to take, and it was making her sick. And I'm like, wait a minute now, this lady is sick. So we need to figure out how we can get this done. So she started taking the medicine and made her sick. She quit taking it. Doctor said she wouldn't live long. Well, 30 years later, she's still here. So our foundation helps families, the people who are affected by MS. And we decided that instead of giving the money to the National Society, why don't we give it to the families themselves? So every time I go somewhere, sign autographs, do any speaking engagements, or whatever we do, it goes directly helping them. Our Fulcher's for Life, and my wife brought up Fulcher's for Life, the David Fulcher Foundation, Fulcher for Life. We just thought about, this is a lifelong journey. And you saw our stuff, you see our stuff. My wife makes a lot of stuff. She makes jewelry, she makes everything, hats, all these things, jerseys and helmets and footballs and stuff that we do.
My wife buys all of it, so I
know she does, yeah. But when I retired from the Bengals, I thought about going back home, California. Then I thought about going back to Arizona. But then I started thinking, if I go to Arizona State, not Arizona, but Arizona State, there's a difference between Arizona and Arizona State. If I go back to Phoenix, I was in college in 86. So they're not going to remember me. My name's up on the stadium, but to live there, no. This was home. So we decided that we're going to God gave me a platform to play football. but he also gave me a stepping stone to step up and say, hey, the reason why I play football and the things that I've done in Cincinnati is because of what my wife is dealing with every day. And that's why we do what we do. And we love it here, man. I'm not going anywhere.
I love hearing it. So, everybody that's going to be at Jungle Jam, we expect about 3,000 fans at Jungle Jam this year. Last year, we raised $40,000 for a lot of players' charities. Last year, we got a check for $25,000 to Joe Burrow's Foundation, $10,000 to Ken Anderson Alliance. There'll be a portion of those sales, ticket sales, that are going to be going to the Fulcher Foundation, and everything that is raised at the. There'll be a 10 by 10 space that Judy and Kayla, David's wife and daughter, will be at. We'll be selling some stuff as well. All of that's going to be going to David's Foundation. David, we appreciate everything you do for the community and everything you do for the MS Foundation, man. We love you, buddy. Thanks for being here.
When I grow up, man, I want to be like Bengal Jim.
Nobody ever said that before.
Remember the sideline reporting David did at the softball last year? He's next in line for.
He was pretty solid.
I mean, I could do that, man. That's easy.
You had fun.
I went to school with that for doing that stuff, man.
That's all archived. We're just gonna bring that out.
Just having fun, man. I think for me though, Jim, and I know you said it, and I know we run out of time, but this is nothing, man. This is what I love to do. I wake up in the morning saying, how can I help? I'm in the jail. I do stuff in the jail, Hamilton County, Butler County. And I go in there and all I want to do is get them out and keep them out. And my wife and I, when we come out here, we're exhausted because they're hungry for change. And if I can help that change, Cincinnati needs a Super Bowl, man. We need a Super Bowl really bad. And I'm not saying that we're not going to live the rest of our lives that we don't have one, but we're due. Cincinnati's due.
We're overdue. We're going to grab.
We're going to grab one. I mean, and I hope it's this year because the years are starting to slip away, man. And I think this is a pretty good football team that is just a step here and step there from being Super Bowl champs.
And also just to let you know, it's not going to be too long. It could be this year coming up. That Thursday night game. It's the Jets game is the Ring of Honor game, right?
Yeah.
I know there's a boatload of votes for Fulcher. Everybody on that list for the Ring of Honor.
Oh yeah,
is deserving. Brother, we'll see you. We'll see you on the Ring of Honor here soon.
It's coming. I mean, I say, and I don't want to give away what I want to do if I am the Ring of Honor, but I'm gonna give it away. Those jackets that they give to those guys, I'm not going to put mine on when I first get it. I'm going to hold it up in the air, and I'm going to point, this belongs to y'all.
The fans.
Don't belong to me.
The fans.
Don't belong to me, man. I wouldn't be – there's so many times that I've played in a game where I could go like this, and they're quiet. Or I can go like this, and they're loud.
I remember that.
I'm thinking, who could just take 60,000 people and tell them all over to shut up when we need some quietness and then make them noise?
You're a pretty big safety, David. Everybody's scared of you.
I know, man.
You did what they said. So stay with us a little bit longer, a couple more minutes here.
Yeah.
Let's just close this out tonight, man. Our season 6 episode. Cannot believe we're still doing this 6 years. This is the 6th year, guys.
It's been fun and a great start to season 6, certainly with our in-studio guest, Ken Anderson, and Baby from ESPN, to have somebody like that. And like I said earlier, we always love the former player insight, and people like David supply that. And again, thank you to Malik, Marissa for multi-camera shoot here. Look forward to exciting things this year. And Tom, what am I forgetting?
Yeah, I think you thanked everybody again. Marissa, Malik, a big thank you. We're going to have even more to speak about that relationship.
Got more news coming. You're right. Yeah.
As the days come, and all good, I think, for the viewers and ourselves. But again, big thanks to Dave and the whole family for coming out.
Whole family's here
with us today.
And again,
it's a lot of fun.
Are you called Papa or Grandpa? What do they call you? What are you going to be called?
Papa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another year, more charity. I think it says it in the new intro. So thank you to Alex from the Bengal Boys.
Yeah.
We
haven't even seen the new intro yet. It got played tonight by Marissa. I haven't even seen it yet, but let's just close with Jungle Jam here. Before we started tonight, guys, this is a free event this year. It is at Newport on the Levee. We're taking up the first and second floor, inside and outside of the levee. There's 2 paid sessions that day. The VIP session, which we announced last week, I think. It's Sam Hubbard, Mike Gesicki, and Yoshi will be in that VIP session. If you were lucky enough, the 150 plus people that bought those tickets before it sold out, you will get Q&A with those guys, pictures, and autographs in the VIP session. The autograph session, before we got on the show today, the air today, we only had, 13 tickets? 13 tickets left for the autograph session. David will be part of that as well. The alumni autograph session. We'll have dozens of players. We're flying in 10 players, guys, from out of town. We got Isaac Curtis coming in, Reggie Williams, we're flying up, Nate Livings, Kevin Case-Faharn, Lamar Parrish. I'm missing names right now. We had so many guys coming in, man, but we have got a huge cast of former players and current players coming. Ted Karras will be there. We're still firming up some other current players and even some of the coaching staff and even some of the front office folks that we expect to be there. The Bengals mascot, the Bengals will be there. I talked to Charlotte today. We're going to have about 12 to 15 of the Bengal cheerleaders. They're going to be doing an actual performance of some kind. It's going to be we've got all kinds of stuff going on. It's going to be a 3-ring circus, family friendly, tons of restaurants and bars and air conditioning and all kinds of stuff going on that day. But only 13 tickets were left for the alumni autograph session, guys. And all the proceeds that come out of this are going to be going to foundations like David's MS Foundation, the Fulcher Foundation, Joe Burrow Foundation. They're going to be, and we'll show a trail of that. We'll post receipts on where that money goes. But guys, go ahead and close us out here, man, on everything.
Looking forward to it. If you're unlucky enough, do not get a alumni or a VIP ticket, you can still come down. 2024 season preview, 100% free to attend. The 5th year of Jungle to the Hall, 100% free to attend. There will be Bengal vendors like we talked about.
22 of them. 22.
For the Fulcher Foundation. And again, just a great off-season event for Bengals fans to gather, come together. And one of my favorite, and I know, David, you missed it last year, was the alumni autographs. And, we talk about it, and I think some players just move away, feel like the fans forget about them, feel like the love's not there, but it couldn't be any further from the truth. God bless Bob Johnson, Jim Breach. I think they stood in that 90-degree heat last year and signed autographs for 2 hours. We're in the air condition this year.
This year we're inside.
All air conditioned.
Our alumni don't have to worry about that. But just a fun event, and invite you to come on down. I think it was 13 states we had represented last year. 13 states last year. Fans flew in from 13 different states, and just a fun event. And as with everything we do, all goes back to charity, and it's kind of the kickoff to the 2025 season. So if you can make it, certainly we'd love to see you. And if not, we have a lot of viewers that attend from around the globe. We do have a silent auction aspect. We have, I'm just going to try to remember what's on there. The Joe Burrow custom bench.
Unique, one of a kind.
A Jamar Chase game-used football.
Against the Raiders, Burrow threw 5 touchdowns that game. We have that game ball.
Heck, for you Swifties, there's a Taylor Swift autographed guitar, something outside the box. The Taste of
Bengals.
The Bengals.
Taste of Bengals.
There's tickets to that. What
autograph
else?
ball in it, too.
There's a Hush gift basket, a Jeff Blake gift basket. There's some cool paintings. Last year was the Burrow painting.
A salute to troops, Chad Johnson.
Jamar Chase.
Helmet, real helmet.
Just lots of fun stuff. So even if you can't make it, you want to support one of the charities, you can go online to our social media channels. There's a link there and participate. And again, 100% of the proceeds go to charity.
Guys, we appreciate you guys. Next week, we're back. We're back every week. We're going to be back every Sunday now until the season starts. When the season starts, we'll be back on at Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Next week, we have a Bengal legend. And Tom, you remember the old, what was the thing on ESPN? Reggie Kelly was on
Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. Remember Hard Knocks? A tear-jerking episode when Reggie Kelly got hurt and pretty much ended his career.
We'll be talking about who's the best blocking tight end in Bengals history.
And he has a story that he shared with me that I have never heard before a tight end talk about. I'm going to hold that off next week. Is it next week we're on, or are we holding off next week? Next week, Reggie Kelly will be on with us. He's going to share that story. So we will see everybody next week. We appreciate you guys being part of this. We appreciate Marissa, who's behind the scenes right here. She's done she worked her butt off today to get everything set up. We appreciate Malik and Daniel and everybody else. We appreciate all of our guests. We appreciate you. You had all kinds of opportunity to do anything you wanted tonight. You're tuning in and watching us. But as we always say, it's by the fans, for the fans. We will never let our Bengal legends like David Fulcher be forgotten. We love you guys. We'll see you next Sunday. Good day, everybody.
Today.
Who dey?
Hey.